Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about zodiac sign compatibility between Aries and Gemini. And yes, this applies and pertains to the sun, moon, and ascendant. Now, both these signs are masculine, they're extroverted, they are sextile by sign, they're two signs away, which suggests compatibility and good synastry between these two signs. Aries is sociable. They could be spontaneous. Gemini can be unpredictable. They are about being cerebral, intellectual. Aries is not an air sign, but they are not. I mean, they definitely can be very quick-witted, and they can really learn things very quickly and at a very fast rate. But they, a lot of times, of course, they lack the tenacity and persistence to follow through on them. What's positive in this match, whether it's platonic or romantic, that when you look at this, okay, both of these signs disdain monotony. Now, Gemini, it can be very restless, and a lot of times they lack that persistence because they just get bored very easily. Now, Aries, they don't always have sustained efforts either, but with Aries, it's more because it's more attributed to being impatient and tiring if they don't get the results that they want immediately. So you don't have to worry. These two people don't have to worry about each other staying with something too long or something becoming somewhat boring or stagnant, because this is a combination, I think, is about a lot of activity. Now, the thing about this is, now Aries can sometimes be somewhat combative and disputatious, but the Gemini person could thrive on maybe an intellectual dispute, which and they can prevent it because of their lighthearted manner, their easygoing temperament, from escalating into a full blown strong argument, if you will. So you have this thing where, okay, Gemini can have a plethora of ideas, right? But Aries, Gemini doesn't always follow up on them. They're more about being loquacious. They talk about a lot of the things they want to do and new ideas and concepts. But Aries is so much about action and activity that Aries will often put the Gemini ideas into action. So when you have this, that obviously can make for very strong compatibility between these two signs. Now, fire signs generally are attracted to air signs often because of, unless it's opposition in a platonic relationship, of course, but they are attracted to the air signs because a lot of times they admire the mental swiftness of the air signs. And the thing about it is, I think the air signs often like the fire signs for their spontaneity. Now, as far as in like a romantic sexual relationship between these two signs, well, you have Aries being, Aries can be very much in a hurry, and Aries ruled by Mars can be very ardent and passionate and can be very sexual. Now, Gemini may not be as much so, but Gemini can be very adaptable and will move at a quick pace, if you know what I'm saying. So, so this could actually be a good combination as far as these two signs go, as far as from a sexual combination. So these signs are such where, I mean, you have the Gemini and you have the Aries, and the Gemini you have the restlessness, but you have the Aries with the impatience. They can always have a lot of variety in their connection, whether it could be platonic or whether it may be romantic. So anyway, this is also something where you have Aries can be very pioneering and could really be and even be somewhat innovative and ingenious. Aries can come up with ideas as well. So this complements the Gemini ability to often have these ingenious thoughts and these plethora of ideas themselves. So both of them are about not being stagnant. And whether it's platonic or whether it's a romantic relationship. That's what makes this a very good combination as well. And both these signs, obviously, they could be progressive. They're forward moving. They're not about staying in one set way for as far as their ideas go. Now Aries is a little bit, even though a cardinal sign, is a little bit more single-minded than Gemini. Gemini, being a mutable sign, is more adaptable in their way of thinking. So they could, even at times when the Aries seems to be set on a certain viewpoint or philosophy, Gemini can go with it and often will be agreeable and amenable to these ideas. So to the Aries thoughts. Well, anyway, it's important to look at if there's an aspect between these two energies, as this could indicate whether these signs may integrate well or not integrate as well, even though they're still compatible by sign regardless, and keep that in mind. Now, if there is a sextile between these two energies, that will accentuate the compatibility and the integration of the energies even more. Let's say somebody has the sun, moon, or ascendant in Aries at 12 degrees, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant in Gemini at 14 degrees. That could be positive, and that could be very auspicious, and it could even accentuate the compatibility even more, making the sextile aspect. Now, you could also have a minor aspect, which could be positive, but not, I call it slightly positive because it's not as strong as the sextile being the major aspect. Let's say person has an Aries sun, moon, or ascendant at 29 degrees, and the other person has a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant at 0 degrees. That would form a semi-sextile aspect, which could be positive and auspicious, but it's not as strong as the sextile aspect because it is minor. Now, let's say you can, on the negative side, you can have an out-of-sign square aspect take place, which could be adverse or adversarial. Let's say somebody has an Aries sun, or sun, moon, or ascendant at 1 degree, and the other person has a Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant at 29 degrees. Well, even though you still have the compatibility by sign, you would have a out of sign square aspect, which could make it a little bit more challenging to deal with each other's personality characteristics, so to speak. And so you have to factor that in. Now, you could also have a semi-square aspect take place. And that, let's say, for example, someone has the sun, moon, or ascendant at Aries at 17 degrees, and the other person has the sun, moon, or ascendant in Gemini at 2 degrees. Well, I call that slightly adverse or adversarial. It would be like the square. You'd have a little bit of the friction and challenge in this a little bit more as otherwise indicated, but you still have the positive in that they are compatible by sign, and being a minor aspect, it's not as intense as the square aspect. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Aries and Gemini compatibility in astrology, and stay tuned next time where I'll be dissertating and talking about Aries and the zodiac sign Cancer compatibility in astrology. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.